I'm Dr. Barry, licensed psychologist, and here we talk about true crime and psychology. Thank you so much for joining. Let's hop right into today's topic. Let's go. I promised you all if there was a verdict today that I would go live and cover it. I've already changed into my comfy clothes, and I was on YouTube searching around and saw that there is a verdict. And so if you're looking for trial coverage, Paul from Reporting Live from My Sofa, he provided, so like that's a great place to go and watch and get a little bit of snark. Yes, we have a verdict and we can kind of guess what it is. He didn't take it well, which we all kind of secretly love. This case is so hard. So, if anybody is brand new to this case, I really encourage you to go and look at my last video, or you can just look at the description. This case, a father tried to claim that he unalived his children's mother because she was trying to kidnap their daughter. But in reality, she was sitting on his couch, refusing to leave. And if she did leave, she wanted to take his favorite daughter with her. She wanted to take Elowen. If that even happened, like what really could have happened is that she was just sitting there. He thought it was I don't know, like who knows what actually happened. The people that could say, um, so Caitlin is the mother that died in this case. She's not here to tell her side of the story and his side of the story. So he testified, okay? And it was bad. His testimony was so bad. If I was if I had any doubt about his guilt, watching him testify, even day 1, because Paul kind of made it sound like, so Paul from Reporting Live from My Sofa, when from the very beginning of court, Dustin almost seemed happy to be there, like glad to have his day in court. Like he seemed almost giddy. It was weird. It was a little weird. And I think he thought this would be his chance to clear the air, to tell his side of the story, and it did not go the way he was expecting. Let me go on ahead and get my stream ready to share. All right. And so, of course, Long Crime called it stunned by guilty verdict. So we're going to start at the beginning. Okay. So the verdict came back today. His version of events was just so bad. So bad. Donna, he was way too confident. He was super smiley. And I think somebody in the comments of my last video called him he has this cold anger. That is, to me, was very scary. Super duper scary. This cold anger that was just super duper scary. So Nicholas Cassotis was at least trying to blame somebody else. He wasn't saying I was trying to defend my unborn child, or so Nicholas never admitted that he actually did the thing. All the evidence points to the fact that he did it, and he tried to make up this mystery person. Dustin admitted to everything that happened, and I think he really thought he was going to get off on this. So we are going to watch. Okay, he's going to have the biggest reaction to the first to the first verdict being read. So let's go on ahead and watch. I want to be on normal speed. Okay, so we're going to put this on normal. Y'all know I love a good 2x or 1.5. I love it. I love things sped up, but we're going to watch it on normal speed. The jury is coming in. I'm not sure that was my breathing or somebody else's breathing. Oh, that wasn't me. That was somebody else.
Thank you. Please be seated.
He's smiling at the jury, making eye contact.
Thank you. Mr. Duren, if you could remain standing and face the jury. Madam Foreperson, will you please stand? Has the jury reached verdict? Yes. How say you, Madam Foreperson, is the defendant Dustin Duren guilty of the crime of second-degree murder, recklessly causing the death of Caitlin Nafsinger, as charged in the charging document identified with charge ID 2217221C, or not guilty? Guilty. You say, Madam Foreperson, the defendant is guilty? Yes. So say you all, ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
Yes.
How say you, Madam Foreperson, is the defendant Dustin Duren guilty of the crime of reckless conduct with a deadly weapon, as charged in the charging document identified with charge ID 2217222C, or not guilty? Guilty. You say, Madam Foreperson, the defendant is guilty? Yes. So
He is
say you all,
truly
ladies and gentlemen
stunned.
of the jury?
So I get why Law and Crime, like that wasn't even them being dramatic. He does look. So I didn't watch it all the way through. I sped up and I saw him like put his hand on his head. I didn't fully watch it all the way through. And this is where sometimes when people struggle to see things from somebody else's perspective, because I think he thought everybody would hear his story and feel bad for him, would think he was the victim, would think, oh my gosh, you are such a good father, when really we're all looking like you should have called the police. You should have went to court. Let's say she took the kids back to Minnesota. Let's say she took the kids away from you. Go to court, file something in court where y'all have a legal arrangement saying what can and can't happen, who can and can't take the kids out of state, that there has to be a mutual agreement, go through all of that. And to me, his testimony made it worse. Him on the stand, talking and just going on and on, having inappropriate humor at times. So I have a very dark sense of humor. But if I'm in court, I'm not on the stand making jokes unless it's with the judge and the lawyers and the jury or somebody. But I'm normally not going to be in court joking it up and like making jokes. The way that he talked about, like, if I have to say I went back to get Valen, he's kind of laughing about it. It was weird. And the fact that he grabbed his tower, his PC tower, because when he mentioned he grabbed his hard drive, I didn't realize he grabbed like a whole tower and he fled. It took him 16 hours. And I don't know that he was turning himself in. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, but it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. So I think he honestly thought that at least that they would find him not guilty. After hearing what he said, after hearing what his lawyer said, I honestly think he thought he would be found not guilty. I don't know. Okay, we're gonna continue watching and then we'll chat some more.
Yes.
How say you, Madam Foreperson, is the defendant Dustin Duren guilty of the crime of endangering welfare of a child, as charged in the charging document identified with charge ID 2217223, or not guilty? Guilty. You say, Madam Foreperson, the defendant is guilty? Yes. So say you all, ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
Yes.
How say you, Madam Foreperson, is the defendant Dustin Duren guilty of the crime of second-degree murder, knowingly causing the death of Caitlin Nafsinger, as charged in the charging document identified with charge ID 2237508C, or not guilty? Guilty. You say, Madam Foreperson, the defendant is guilty? Yes. So say you all, ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam. You may be seated. Your Honor, could you poll the jury, please?
Certainly. Defendant has requested to poll the jury.
Yes, Your Honor. Juror number 3, will you please stand? Sir, in your individual capacity as juror, how say is
That's what
the
he's
defendant Dustin Duren guilty of the charge ID 2217221C, second-degree murder reckless, or not guilty?
Guilty.
House say is Dustin Duren guilty of charge ID 2217222C, reckless conduct deadly weapon, or not guilty?
Guilty.
House say is Dustin Duren guilty of charge ID 2217223C, endangering the welfare of a child, or not guilty?
Guilty.
And is Dustin Duren guilty of
And they're going to go through that for all the jurors. I think he's just going to stand there looking stunned throughout all of this, thinking, oh my gosh, how could they do this to me? How could they not see blah, blah, blah? His defense put on a good defense. So that's why when I talk about I want defendants. So I think the state did a phenomenal job and his defense did the best they could with what they had. Does anyone know how long the jury was out? So this was posted 2 hours ago to Law and Crime. So this was posted 2 hours ago to Law and Crime. And the next case I cover, I'll probably cover the Abby Zwart. I'm bad with names, but I will probably cover her case. That's a case out of Virginia. There's some coverage, so I might do that on Saturday. We'll see. She's the teacher. She survived, so she lived. She survived. So it's a really crazy case here in Virginia. She's suing the district of Newport News, and I believe she's suing the interim principal, or she's suing like one of the former admin as well. And so we will take a look at that maybe this weekend. I am glad that he gets to hear over and over again each person say that they thought he was guilty. Okay, so Northwest says 2.5 hours, including lunch. Wow. His story it didn't make any sense. And the evidence seemed to be clear. I want to get towards the end. I don't know if they're going to mention anything about sentencing. We'll play from here.
7508C, second degree murder, knowing or not guilty? Guilty. Thank you. Jury number 15, in your individual capacity as sheriff, House say is the defendant Dustin Duren guilty of charge ID 2217221C, second degree murder, reckless, or not guilty? Guilty. Is Dustin Duren guilty of charge ID 2217222C, reckless conduct deadly weapon, or not guilty? Guilty. Is Dustin Duren guilty of charge ID 2217223C, endangering the welfare of a child, or not guilty? Guilty. Is Dustin Duren guilty of charge ID 2237508C, second degree murder, knowing, or not guilty? Guilty. Thank you. And jury number 16, in your individual capacity as juror, House say is the defendant Dustin Duren guilty of charge ID 2217221C, second degree murder, reckless, or not guilty? Guilty. House say is. So we'll just pause here and I can answer a question. So Winter asks, can you talk about the defense attorney and him constantly talking about the children, especially the oldest, as his daughters? That was wild to me. And the state was so smart to pick up on that those were their children. They weren't solely his. And because it came off possessive and controlling. Now, as a defense attorney, you present the case in a way that your client wants. And he likely wanted it to be him protecting his daughters. I could imagine that he wanted that type of language. I could imagine, because I don't think he hears anything wrong with that. Now, sometimes my husband and I, we might joke about like, oh, your son did this, but like, we're just joking. Like we don't mean it for real. Neither one of us are possessive over our child that way. And so this was very strange. And I do think, because right now his parental rights likely haven't been terminated. And Caitlin's parents are probably, I don't know this for sure, but they will probably work to terminate his parental rights because of his crimes against children, because he was found guilty of child harm crimes. There will likely be something about him not having any contact. So that part is probably going to ruin, he's probably going to be very upset
he should probably be on some type of watch. Like, if he really gets the fact he may never see his girls ever again, like, that could make him really lose it. And so, yeah. Northwest asks, what was with him not talking about the 1-year-old, only the 4-year-old? He had this unhealthy, in my opinion, he had this connection with the oldest that I don't think he had with the younger child, because according to his testimony, Caitlin took their younger child without him realizing, and he immediately drove to the daycare. I didn't cover this part of his testimony, but that's what he said. He said he immediately drove to the daycare to see if she had taken Eloin too. He realized she hadn't taken Eloin, and he was like, "Oh, thank God." Those weren't his exact words, but that was the gist of what I remember of his testimony. And he didn't go to where she was to demand she return their daughter. He didn't do that. So she stayed wherever she was. I think he says, I don't know if it's true. He says he called one of her parents to have them check on the 1-year-old. That's what he said. I don't know if that's true. But he had this attachment, and I do think he views that 4-year-old, the older child, that she saved him. Because if you listen to his testimony, you will hear, like, at the very beginning, he's gonna talk about his depression and how he was hospitalized and how he used to have these thoughts. Now, I don't know if that part is, so what I mean, I don't know if he thought, if the jury knew how much he cared about his daughter and how much she meant to him, that would help them understand why he did what he did when he thought Caitlin was hurting their daughter. But what he described sounded like a bad argument. Like, it sounds like they're both, like, trying to grab the child. Like, that you shouldn't be, like, what he describes shouldn't be happening. It was a whole big mess. A whole big mess. I hope that's helpful. I'm glad you were able to catch a live. All right. But he describes that she, like, saved him, and she, like, gave him a reason to live, and, like, because, and now they were a family, and he expected this unit to stay together, and he was going to do everything he could to keep everyone together. Like, he talked about the importance of kids being raised by their mother and their father. Like, he said all of that in the beginning part of his testimony on day 4. But to me, that made me think, did you snap or did you lose it when you thought you weren't gonna have this ideal, like, if you were gonna have to share custody and that there was a chance that Caitlin could take Eloin from you? Is that when you did what you did? It just, and so, I don't know that any of the jurors spoke out. Because, they don't have to. I'm always interested to hear, like, if jurors do say, like, "Okay, this was our experience. This is what we thought," but they don't have to. We will play the rest of this just to see what else is here.
Dustin Duren guilty of charge ID 2217222, reckless conduct deadly weapon, or not guilty? Guilty. Is Dustin Duren guilty of charge ID 2217223C, endangering welfare of a child, or not guilty? And is Dustin Duren guilty of charge ID 2237508C, second-degree murder and knowing, or not guilty?
So while children can be like, so I've worked with people that their child gave them, was a part of the reason why they had hope for the future, but that child can't represent everything. Like, you have to heal and you have to find other things in your life. You have to be more than just this child's parent. Like, there's, because when you tie up your identity into this child, so it's almost like, because he's going to say he knew what the oldest child was thinking, and I don't think he knew that. He's going to say he knew that she was okay mentally. I don't think that kid was, I don't think she was okay mentally, and after seeing what she saw, he was the worst person to try to check in on her emotional state. He was not a safe person, in my opinion. And that, like, he just did that to her mother, and she witnessed it at minimum. In his version of the story, Caitlin is holding the baby. The state believes that he was holding Eloin when he shot and killed her. And so Super sad. I hope the oldest child knows this was not her fault. Okay? I know your dad tried to put it on you. I know he tried to say, "No, this was not your fault." This like and any bad experiences somebody has, that does not excuse behavior, and that we are all responsible to heal, and that healing is possible. EMDR can be really effective. Um, and so when she talked with the pediatrician, because his lawyer tried to make it sound like the pediatrician coerced the child to say that daddy hurt mommy and me, but the way the pediatrician said it and the way that children talk, because the pediatrician first asked, like, are you okay? Or like, are you hurt? And she said no. And then the pediatrician asked, is there anything on you that hurts? And that's when she said my ears. And so with my ears, that is where uh she talked about, daddy hurt mommy and me. And that is what the child said. All right. Somebody mentioned play therapy. So play therapy can be really helpful, and EMDR can be very, very helpful. EMDR is eye movement desensitization reprocessing. Something anyone can do is called a butterfly tap, where you just tap one side and then the other. We are still thinking about Jamaica right now. So Jamaica is having there's a horrible storm. I've seen live feeds and updates from all that's happening on the island right now. And EMDR, the butterfly tap. So you cross your arms and then you just tap one side and then the other while you breathe. For a lot of people, that can be soothing and calming and a soothing technique. And that is not so. EMDR is an entire treatment approach. So, but that is a technique within EMDR. Um, there are people that specialize in working with children to help them process through difficult memories, difficult things. Sometimes, especially for a child that's under the age of 6, you might use play. You might use characters to help them talk about the worst part, and then also make sure that they're not thinking anything bad about themselves because of that bad thing that happened. Elowen didn't do anything wrong. His daughter didn't do anything wrong. It's okay to cry. It's okay to have feelings. That doesn't mean that somebody's gonna get hurt. And so, and I say some of those things knowing that sometimes families do watch streams. And so, I do hope that there is support that goes to that beautiful, family. All right, I'm gonna just see. I don't think there's more left. Let's see if they scheduled sentencing.
Okay, any further requests at this time? Okay, please be seated. Okay, members of the jury, I want to thank you for your service, and in a moment, I'll have you retire to the jury deliberation room. I'll come in and see you in just a moment, and thank you again for your service. Anything further on behalf of the state before I dismiss this jury?
No, Your Honor.
Anything further from the defendant before I dismiss this jury?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Please rise for the jury.
All right. I'm gonna pause here. We're gonna go back. Stop sharing. There we go. So sentencing is scheduled for December 11th at 10 a.m. I'm sure the impact statements are going to be just pretty sure it's going to be a lot. I am going to put this on my schedule to just keep an eye out for it. Dustin D sentencing 10 a.m. because I'm going to put it for like 8 so I can, there we go. Yeah. So December 11th, 10 a.m. is when it is. And because of his defense, that's why I wanted to make sure to make that point that the children did not do anything wrong. So even if the children are the reason the adults are arguing, that is because the adults aren't arguing the right way. The adults need conflict resolution skills. So when a person has one child, when a person has multiple children, that can put stress on a relationship. The two of them decided not to be together, and now they have to determine how to co-parent. He sounds like a pretty controlling person, and the fact that Caitlin had a code word with her aunt, where if she texted or called her aunt and said this code word, that meant to call 911. That lets me know she was aware. It's almost like if something happens to me, he did it. Like, she was aware that he could be volatile at times, or she was at least concerned that this might not go well. And so, um, my my heart breaks for the situation. It is the adult's problem. Okay? So even because because often children will think, cuz sometimes they might hear their parents arguing about them, but it's because the parents aren't communicating. And sometimes in a dysfunctional system, when the kids are having problems, it takes pressure off of the marital problems. Cuz let's say the husband and wife, they're not communicating well already, or the spouses, the partners, they're not communicating well already, and then the kids are having issues, because there will be times when children might subconsciously start to have, like, they hear the parents arguing, and then they do something that draws the attention off of the parents, and so that can sometimes be what we call the scapegoat or the child with the identified problem. When, okay, you're bringing in your child for these issues, but the real problem is their marriage. And so I am a child and family therapist. That is what I do. During 2020, I switched to working more with adults, to really help give adults skills and tools to work, to manage their own selves, to manage their emotions, their reactions. I've worked with some parents and I've been like, hey, I need to work with you first, and then we can see about working with the children. Especially if I'm working with a parent that's struggling with managing their own emotions, with managing, like, if their life is kind of falling apart, focusing on that. Um, the aunt would not even look at him. So if y'all want to go back and look at Aunt Brenda's testimony, Aunt Brenda looked mad. Okay, but I would be too if I was there and that happened. I would be so. And Aunt Brenda, this wasn't your fault either. Okay, Caitlin wanted to go. She wanted to go with the least amount of conflict as possible. And and it was just it's really a heartbreaking case. Super duper heartbreaking. I'm glad there's going to be some justice here. Ooh, Emily's here. Welcome, welcome. Yes, welcome, welcome, Emily. Um, and so it's a super, super sad case. Let me know if you'll have any other questions. And so there are therapies to help reduce the amount of PTSD and trauma. The good thing is that I think there were safe adults that came around the children relatively quickly. Children are really resilient, but as they get older, they're going to understand more and more. So the oldest child might have a fear of balloons, or might have a fear of loud noises, or might have this aversion, and that can be a PTSD sign. And so that's where things like EMDR or play therapy can be really helpful, to kind of help work through this. So this case was from February of 2024. I believe it was February of 2024. And he was arrested, I think March, because it was February 29th, so it was a leap year. So I believe that was 2024. So that the incident happened on February 29th. And then he was arrested at an Applebee's. Yeah. Lisa, no worries. Welcome, welcome. This was I just scheduled it like a little bit ago. So I did not know that he was sentenced until I was scrolling and I saw it, because I had been looking out for the sentencing, and I saw that Long Crime had the video available. And so He was super fixated in a weird way on his oldest daughter. I agree. I definitely agree. And so thank you all so much for joining. I'm Dr. Barry. Here I talk about psychology and true crime. The psychological aspects that we really covered here, especially with this case, is how things like this can affect children, and then how some situations can be unsafe. And because some people would ask, okay, was their relationship ever physically unsafe? And the most dangerous time is when somebody decides to leave or when there's major custody issues. That is a major that can be a time when there can be an increase in violence or aggression. And so she did everything she could. She did absolutely everything she could. Thank you, Emily, for becoming a new member. This was y'all are good in the chat. What state was this? It's Duren? No, that's his name. Y'all know I'm bad with names and stuff. New Hampshire. This is in New Hampshire. Okay. So this case is out of New Hampshire. All right. And so we will be covering I'll likely mention something about sentencing, or I'll share an image about it. Paul is probably going to cover it on Thursday because I was able to chat with Paul. And so maybe later this week, Paul will come back and cover it. If you want to go back and watch trial coverage, Paul from Reporting Live from My Sofa, his podcast channel has the went live and covered the trial. I reviewed just his testimony, so aspects of his testimony and closing arguments. I did that earlier today. So I will see y'all next time. I'm gonna go put my kiddo to bed. I hope y'all have a good one. Bye.